Hi everyone, it's Amy, GablesStitcher. Today is November 9th, 2023. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. I really am making a new video. It's been a while since my last video. I went back to look to see how long, and needless to say, I was quite a bit shocked, a tiny bit horrified to find out that it has been 6 months since I made my last video. 6 months. There's been a lot of cross stitch that's happened in that time. To be fair though, there were periods of time where there was not a lot of cross stitch that happened, which is one of the reasons why I went so long without making a video. Summer was very busy. I have 3 teen girls. This is probably one of the last time I'll be able to say I have 3 teen girls because my oldest is almost 20. But they were home over the summer and I know my time is limited with them, so we did lots of fun summer things and not a lot of cross stitch. The other thing that really put a damper on my cross stitch is we got a new puppy. We got a puppy in June. His name is Indiana. If you know, you know. And yeah, a lot of time with the puppy, which has been great. But there were actual weeks where I didn't cross stitch. So hard to make videos if you're not cross stitching. But when I look back in 6 months, there was a lot of cross stitch that did happen. So we are going to catch up today. I have 6 things I have finished. I started 12 projects. And I worked on a whole lot of whips in there too. So we might as well get started, right? I am in a different location. I know I'm going to be filming this in chunks and putting it all together. So I decided to try here because my camera is a little bit out of the way versus being in the middle of the room. Let me know what you think. New can be new is different, but it can be good too, right? I know it can be good. So as I said, my name is Amy. I'm GablesStitcher. I like to cross stitch. I like to read. I like to cross stitch big things and medium things, sometimes small things too. But I do all different types of cross stitch. So hopefully you find something here that you will like. So let's get started with the finishes. Like I said, 6 finishes. That's pretty good, right? We'll forget how many starts I said. 6 finishes. So the first finish I finished at the beginning of June, which was shortly after my last video. And this is Never Enough Time. This is an old chart by The Good Housewife. Unfortunately, it is out of print and a friend let me borrow it. And I stitched it on 40 count vintage country mocha linen with a green silk. So I'm gonna hold that up close. There we go. And I really like how this came out. This has been on my list to stitch for a very long time. So I'm very thankful for my friend let me borrow it. I do plan on framing this and putting it in the kitchen. So that is finish number 1. It's going to be interesting for me to figure out how to hold things when I'm filming, because I've been filming in the other spot for so long that I have it down. I do have some notes here that I'll be looking at too as well. My second finish is, I think I had almost finished this the last video I had done. This is a little sampler, Susanna Eccles, and this is charted by Mama Loves You GB on Etsy, on Instagram, and on Flosstube. Michelle has some fantastic samplers. I love the sampler because it is so little and so sweet. This was stitched on a 32 count linen that I dyed myself, but I know I have said in other videos, this is essentially flax. I made flax linen. It's stitched with the called for DMC floss. 2 strands over 2 linen threads. Stitches charted. The only thing I changed is at the very top where the crown is, I put Elizabeth II's monogram because I was stitching this when she passed away. And there we go. Love it. A lot of stitching in it, more than I anticipated, but a very, very fun stitch. I will do my best to put links for what is available, as well as the other Flosstubers I mentioned in the description box below. Next finish. This was a big one. Big one. One of the reasons I'm filming here is I can use the shelf to hold my stuff. Figure, let's see how it works. This is the 2018 Modern Folk Embroidery Stitch Along. It is, I think it's called the Four Seasons. Back. There we go. I love how this came out. I had started this in 2018. Had not done a ton. I had done across the top before this year. At the beginning of 2023, I had COVID, which really knocked me out for about a month. And then I developed secondary double pneumonia after that. So I had about 3 months where I was doing a lot of stitching. And I stitched most of this in that 3 months. I finished it in July at the New Jersey Cross Stitch Retreat run by Arlene Cohen. And I love how it came out. So this is stitched on a 40 count linen, Newcastle linen by Zweigart. It is a standard color called Ivory, and it's stitched with DMC. I don't remember what number. It's one of the 38 red colors, but just DMC. And I'll hold it up close so you can see some of the details. I will do a slow roll here. There we go. And on the bottom, I started in the wrong direction. So I need to rip that out so I can use the rest of the fabric. My plan is to frame this. I'm thinking maybe either a cherry, probably a cherry frame, or maybe a copper, because I think it will look really nice in the mantle most of the year. Mantle above our fireplace. So really fun stitch. A lot more stitches in it than you think there would be. I stitched the sampler stitch along, and I also stitched the 2021 Fruits of Plenty stitch along. And I love everything that Jacob does. I love his stitch alongs, but I'm good. I don't need to do another stitch along for a little while. Everyone's asking me, are you doing the 2024 one, Amy? No, I am going to cheer everybody on, but I will not be doing it. And this is the back. Sometimes people ask to see the backs. But what's really pretty, once again, one more time, is the front. I am so happy to have finished this. I think this is my favorite finish of the year. So after that, the next few finishes are kind of anticlimactic. I finished, I said 6 finishes. The next finish I don't have. I will insert a picture. I made a scissor fob for my friend Lynette, and I made it to give to her in July. It was on a scrap linen. I stitched one of those Prairie Schooler little cards and stitched an initial off of one of the charts that I have in my stash. And I will put a picture in of what it looked like. It's just a fun little gift to give her. And she gave me something as well, which I'll show in another segment. 2 more finishes. Next finish. I am so out of practice, guys. Next finish. Love, love, love this. This is from Stitches Through the Years. It is a quote by Lady Bird Johnson on it. Where flowers bloom, so does hope. This is stitched on a 40 count mystery linen. And when I say mystery linen, it is a true mystery linen because I bought it off of a D-stash. I used mostly my own floss, substituted in a lot of Victorian Motto and Color and Cotton that I had in my stash. And I love, love, love the way this came out. I love Stitches Through the Years. Like, I know I've talked about her in past videos. Her designs, like, they speak to me. The colors, and they're fun to stitch, and I love the way they come out. This was my first finish of hers. It will not be my last. So yeah, that will be framed. And on my handy dandy Dollar Tree clipboard, I have my last finish. Byron Blackbird by the Artsy Housewife. Oh my gosh, I love him. Love, love, love him. He is stitched on 40 count weathered stone by Atomic Ranch Fabrics. And he is stitched with the called for floss, except the green that you see in the vine, I substituted in a Color and Cotton that I have. It was called for Schneckley, which I think is a Weeks, and I thought it was too yellow. So I use Lichen from Color and Cotton, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. I started that the middle of October. I think it was October 14th of this year with my friend Angela, who came to Massachusetts for the Stitch New England retreat, and we started together after that. So I just couldn't put him down. Was working on him, could not put him down. So that was one of my starts. Remember I think I said I did 12 starts. That was one of my starts. It was a start and a finish. But this is what the chart looks like. Artsy Housewife is a newer designer. I think really her stuff came out this year. And for some reason, just like I love Stitches Through the Years, Artsy Housewife is hitting all the feels for me. And now that I've finished that, I have enough room in my fabric for 2 more of her friends. Una Owl and Bedelia Bunny. Love them. I don't know if she's coming out with more, but I love her little animals. So I'm going to do what they call tissue boxing. So I finished Byron. I think I'm starting Bedelia next in the same fabric. And then once I finish Bedelia, I'll stitch Una. I have a finishing idea for all 3 of them together, and I can't wait to stitch those 2 and hopefully fully finish to show you. So those are my finishes. Not bad, because like I said, I did not have a ton of stitching time this summer. There were weeks where I barely stitched, but I did get some finishes, and I did get starts too, as I said. So should we do starts next or whips next? Whips are starts too, right? I guess we'll see. So I'm going to pause this, and I'm going to put these away and get my next stuff, and we will move on to the next segment. It will be instantaneous for you, not so much for me. But that's it. We're back. I couldn't make a decision, so I brought whips and I brought new starts. We're just getting it all mixed together today. But before we get to my next pile, I wanted to say that the Stitches Through the Years piece, the title is Summer in the Country. I think I forgot to say that. And I will link that piece below. It is still available. And I wanted to show the scissor fob that my friend Lynette made me. So pretty. I think that's a Brenda Gervais motif. I could be wrong. And then the back, she stitched this. So pretty. And she also stitched a needle minder. Put it for my face so it focuses. So pretty. This year for 2023, when I went to retreats, I decided that instead of participating in the smalls exchange, I was going to stitch a small for a friend. And I gave Lynette a scissor fob at the New Jersey retreat that I stitched. I was not expecting anything in return, but she did give me this at the Stitch New England retreat. So, love it. I almost cried. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Lynette. So let's get into projects. The next whip I'm going to show you is my oldest whip. This is the only picture I have of it. This is a class I took in 2003 with R&R Reproductions at Celebrations of Needlework in New Hampshire. This is the Constance Thayer sampler. And back in the dark ages with hand-drawn charts, this is the picture of a chart that we would get. Cross stitch has come a long way. So I had initially hoped to finish her this year. She is older than my oldest child. She'll be 21 in May. She's not going to be done this year, but now I would like to finish her before she turns 21 and can buy a drink. So I've been calling this the Finish Her Before She Can Drink sampler. I finished the border a couple of years ago. Was very happy to see it matched up. Earlier this year, I did those middle motifs. And I was really dreading the bottom. This is a hand-drawn chart, not super easy to read. And the sampler is very bottom heavy. So this summer, I pulled it out and started working on the bottom because I was dreading it. And I knew if I left it until last, I would not stitch it. So I got most of the way through the house. Well, let's be fair. I'm 2/3 of the way through the house. And I did one side and I burned out. But we will get back to it and finish the other side. I've been putting the flowers on the border as I hit that part. About halfway done with the flowers on the border. You can't see it very well on camera, but they are there. This is on 32 count R&R fabric with DMC and 1 fancy floss. So it was just what was kitted up with it 21 years ago. So I will not be finishing it this year, but my goal is I would really, really would like to finish the bottom this year. So that way I have 5 months to finish the over 1 lettering and the rest of that middle border. So I can finish her before the end of May. That's my self-imposed deadline on this. So I can finish her before she can drink. I don't typically give myself hard and fast deadlines, but this one's been hanging around too long. I'm giving myself a deadline. We'll see. As I always say, things could change, but that's how I'm feeling right now. That was my oldest whip. Let me show you my newest whip. My newest whip is from the 2023 Just Cross Stitch Christmas Ornament issue. This is a good issue. I always buy this issue. Some issues I think are better than others. This is one of the better ones, in my opinion. I feel like I could stitch a lot out of it. And I always say that, and I never do. So let's stitch an ornament out of it, Amy. Right after I finished Byron, I decided to stitch this ornament here. This is by the Little Stitcher. I love it. I think this might be the next one I stitch. But good issue, still available. Let me show you where I am. I am stitching this with a scrap of fabric that I believe is 32 count raw opalescent linen. It was another thing I just picked up in a D-stash. And this is where I am. I am stitching this with the called for DMC. And yep, really pretty. Because the Merry is written in black and red, I like to do the white first because it makes it stitch up a little bit cleaner. There are no rules in cross stitch. Like, you stitch how you want to stitch and whatever makes you happy. but I find that makes it look a little bit cleaner. And so that's how I tend to do it if I can. Here we go. Hopefully that will be a finish soon. It's a small. Like I said, I really like to stitch big things, but I'm trying to put some small things in there to get some quick finishes and to get to some of the things that I really want to stitch. Next project. This was my first start since I filmed last. This is a housewife. It's called Fractor Housewife by Heart's Ease Exemplar Works. It is not an out of print chart. However, it's a chart you don't see that often. It is gorgeous. My friend Kristen and I were at celebrations together in 2022, and she saw the chart at one of the shops there. They had 2 copies. We both had wanted to stitch it. We decided to buy it together and stitch it together. So she actually saw the designer's, Teresa's, actual housewife at a retreat she went to this year. She had it. She sent me a little video. It is stunning. So we started it together. As you know, I never stitch with the call for fancy floss, all of them. I made an exception. This calls for Belsois silk, and I did kit it up with the called for Belsois. This is not going to be a quick project. There's a lot of specialty stitches in it, and I haven't even crossed the bridge of how I'm going to finish it, but it's something I really, really want to stitch. It calls for a lakeside linen. I think it's 40 count, and my friend Kristen was actually able to locate it for both of us. Oops, it's the wrong direction. It's a massive start. Like, hold on to your seat. There we go. Love it. I have not gotten back to it. In case you can't tell, actually, I can't even point out to you where it is because, oh yeah, I can. That's that little heart right there. Massive start. I have not gotten back to this because I need to iron my fabric and I need to make a working copy of the chart. This chart is a book. It's pretty big. So I need to make a working copy of the actual chart part of it. And I haven't had a chance. So I'm finally now getting the time to do some of these things. So I'd like to get back to that soon. Next whip in this pile. I think I started this before my last video. Maybe like just started it. It is Mirabilia's Touching the Autumn Sky. A friend had loaned me this chart. It is an out of print chart, unfortunately, and a hard to find one. I would like to finish this in Fairy Tale Land of Amy. I would like to finish it relatively soon so I can give it back to her. I have said in other videos, this is a lot of times what I do with a project when I'm kitting it up. I make myself floss tags out of actual cereal boxes, and I put a length of DMC on it. And then if I need more, I get more from my master set. When I'm done, I can go back and wrap them around my bobbins. So I don't need to kit up everything with a full skein, but I can still have with me what I need. I started this in May or June, I don't remember. And I have been stitching with Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough on her Fancy Folk Zoom. And I've been trying to put in a couple of days a month on it. And this is where I am. So pretty. I've done the entire top and I worked my way down to the girl. Top was a lot of confetti, so I wanted to do that to get to the fun stuff. This is a 32 count silk weaver fabric. It's a one-off, so I don't know what the name of it is. It's a Wexford linen as well, but I thought it worked really perfect for this. I'm holding it back, so hopefully you can see the colors a little bit better. Looks like a November sky. Looks like today out because it's very gray out today. Oops, and I have one more on this one too. My handy dandy clipboard. All right, last whip in this pile. This is another sampler, a little sampler. I'm discovering I am really liking these little samplers. This is the Neapolitan sampler. This was charted by my friend Julie, who is Kansas City girl on a Colorado world, here on Flosstube, and her design shop is Hemlock and Rye. So I do not have a picture of the sampler. I will insert it and I will link it below because this is available. And this is small, like this is almost to the bottom of the sampler. This is stitched on 40 count ale fabric by Picture This Plus, 1 thread over 2 squares of linen, and it is all DMC. And I love the way those dark reds and the pastel colors look on this dark fabric. Love it. So pretty. Touching the Autumn Sky is 2 over 2. 2 linen threads stitched with 2 threads. 2 threads stitched over 2 linen threads. Told you I was out of practice. There we go. Really pretty. All right, 12 minutes for the segment. Let's go on to the next. All right, back with 5 more projects. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun too. The next project I have is not a whip of mine, and it's not a new start. It is a whip I am adopting. Adopting the finish, and then I will give it back to its owner. My friend Helen, Helen D here on Flosstube, has a biscornu that she has most of it done. Look at that. The bottom isn't started yet, but most of the top is done. This is the Be Mine biscornu by Heartstring Samplery. And at the Stitch New England retreat, she was saying she really wants the biscornu, but she just cannot bring herself to finish stitching it. I said, Helen, I can stitch big things. Like, I'm really good at stitching big things. I really am not good at fully finishing things, as you know, if you've watched my channel for the last few years. Helen said, I'm great at finishing. I said, I'll finish stitching the biscornu for you if you finish a couple of ornaments for me. She said, deal. So Helen mailed me the biscornu, the chart, her floss and notes. So this is going into my pile, and I would like to stitch and finish this sooner rather than later so I can give it back to Helen. It's perfect. I don't need to stitch it after I stitch it for her because I did want to stitch it, but I will get that out of my system and I'll be able to stitch another biscornu. So an adopted whip. Next, this was a new start. This is Halloween Ride. And this is by Yasmin, Made with Love. So she's a newer designer to me. She also has a floss tube. Say it with me. I'll link it below. Love this. Like, this is just so cute. I guess I have a thing right now for animals. I kitted it up with some of the called for and a lot of color and cotton for my stash, which is kind of what I typically do. I am stitching it on a 32 count fabric by Barefoot Needle Arts. I think it's called Beach Days or something like that. Told you guys I'm out of practice. And here's the start. I like this because it kind of is like blue with a little bit of brown. So I started at the top and I'm working my way down. And you see floss hanging here. I decided I don't like the way that my floss is striping in the pumpkin, so I am going to pull it and restitch it, which is why I haven't worked on it. Started this at the beginning of October. I really should frog and restitch that so I don't dread going back to this. This is 32 count. I'm using 2 strands of floss over 2 linen squares. And I think that is fantastic. It'll be more fantastic when I frog and restitch. So I'm just ready to go on that one. Next one, another new start. I told you there were 12, there's a lot. This is told the correct way. Chessie and Me. It's called the Grant Sampler. I'm stitching this with my friend Shelley, who is It's Only Stitching here on Flosstube. She said she was starting it, and I knew I had it. I think I picked it up on a freebie table at a retreat a couple of years ago. And I said, of course I'll stitch it with you. Kitted up with a mix of called for and some color and cotton. And we decided that we are going to finish this in 2024 because it's an election year. And it says, let us have peace and preserve the union on it. And we figured that is really important for an election year. I am stitching this on 36 count Atomic Ranch fabric called Pampas Reed, which is just a nice neutral, with 1 strand of floss over 2 linen threads. And this is where I am. A decent start, but I'm not at the dense part yet. The sampler does have some dense sections. And like most chessiamies, there are some specialty stitches in it. I think this is something that is suitable to stitch on Ada. Just needs to be modified a little bit because Shelley stitches on Ada. I should ask her, or you can watch her video to see what if she's making any modifications. But I think it's just the over 1 that she probably retarded. I stitch on Ada. I stitch on linen. I stitch on even weave. I stitch on everything. Stitch on what makes you happy. Stitch what makes you happy. The materials don't matter, just that you enjoy it. Next project. Say it with me. It's a new start. Plum Street Spring Moon. Sorry for the glare. It is like completely gray out. So if I didn't have the light, we'd be doing Flosstubers by Braille. This was an exclusive for Fox and Rabbit in Australia for a while. And I want to say it was Needlework Market in March of 2023 that it was finally released to the rest of us. And I have loved this since it came out. I have a thing for bunnies, and I just love the colors. So I am stitching it with a lot of the called for. Actually, I think all the called for. I think I must have had most of them when I bought a couple. I started this with my stitch friend Lisa, who is West Witch, I believe, on Instagram. I will link her below. And I am stitching it on a Fabrics by Stephanie Wintry something. Like I said, I'm out of practice, guys. And this is being totally blown out. Let me come back here. It's kind of like a purpley wintry color, which is why I chose it. It's like purpley silvery. And this is where I am. So you can see the moon and the leaves. It's not a very big piece. It's not going to take this whole piece of fabric. And this is an 1/8. Winter Wishes, that's the name of the fabric. Fabrics by Stephanie. Will not take this whole 1/8, but it is dense stitching. And that's a pretty true representation. I love it. This is 40 count, once again, 1 thread over 2 linen threads. My friend Lynette is going to start it in the spring with another one of her friends. So I will be stitching along with them as well. She said, don't stitch on it until March. Don't worry, Lynette, I am not finishing it by March, so we will definitely be able to stitch along. Last one in this pile. Lynette is homesteading on the Homefront. Once again, we'll link her below. She is a very good stitchy friend of mine, very good friend of mine. And we don't live that far away from each other. And she is my whip manager, where she is trying to help me reduce my whips. But as she puts it, I do what I want, and my whips have not been reducing. I say that because Linda and I started this year as well, together. It's called At Home by Brenda Gervais. We started this at the Stitch New England retreat together, and it is not a small sampler. So pretty. It really is more vibrant than what that picture is showing. I'm going to show you the floss in a second. These are the floss colors. I am stitching it with some of the called for. A lot of what I had in my stash, my collection, a lot of color and cotton. And it does call for a few DMC, and I think I substituted in a few DMC. So this is the color palette. It is really pretty. The house is tan, and to me, this picture looks very one note to me. So I decided to stitch the house in red because really, who doesn't love a red house? I mean, I do. So there are two colors of bricks in the house. I'm going to show you what I'm going to stitch mine with. So my house is going to be these colors. It is going to be Jakey Brown by Classic Colorworks and Used Brick by Classic Colorworks. And that's showing much more orange than it really is. I am stitching it on a 40 count Vintage Country Mocha, which is one of my go-to fabrics for neutrals. And sit down, brace yourself for another huge start. There we go. Almost done. Almost done. That's it. Just a piece of the vine. Usually when I start something, I work on it for a good week or so. I like to get a good start so you don't look at it and think, what is that? Well, this time we're looking at it, we're saying, what is that? It's a piece of vine. So I'm not really talking plans right now, but I have been thinking about my plans for 2024. I really want to work on my big samplers next year and just big projects in general and get some work on it. And the ones that are going to the top of the pile are the ones that can be finished, like Constance Thayer, my oldest whip, and the ones that have basically nothing on it, like At Home. But that will be coming in another video. So let's move on to the next 5. I'll be right back, put those away and grab some more. And that barely being started will be a theme. You're gonna see it in that next batch too. Round 3. So I was telling my husband, he just came down for a break from work, and I told him, like, oh, everything's getting blown out. He adjusted my light. It's probably better now. I can already tell it's better now. So I'm not refilming the stuff I just did, but it is better. So next pile of 5, let's do a whip and not a new start. I'm going to put a picture in of the project. This is my Heaven and Earth design project called A Place of Her Own. I started this in 2017, I believe, until Pattern Keeper came around. Did not do a lot. Did not stitch on it at all this year. At the Stitch New England retreat, Lydia was there. She has a Flosstube channel. I believe it's Lydia's Leisurely Stitching. Once again, I will link her below. And Lydia, I'll put a picture in of the two of us, is almost done. I've been joking and saying we are neck and neck for a finish, but obviously we are not. So it was really, really nice to see Lydia's project stitched almost all the way and to talk to her about the project. And it really inspired me to pull mine out. So after the retreat, I pulled mine out and worked on it for about at least 5,000 stitches. I didn't keep track, but I did a good amount. Came all the way down here. Did I take a picture of it before I started? Nope, just the one with Lydia and I. But I worked on it quite a bit and I had a lot of fun. This is 1/1 on 25 count even weave with the called for DMC floss. And I am almost at 11% done. It looks so good. So good. It was very helpful talking to Lydia because where I am right now, I feel like the confetti is insane. And she did tell me that this and the carpet that she's working on the bottom are the worst two parts. So gave me an idea of how to go about working on this project. Obviously not going to be finished anytime soon, but it was fantastic to see hers and to meet her. I did go to 3 retreats since I have filmed last. I went to Stitch New Jersey, which is put on by Arlene Cohen. I went to Stitch New England, which is put on by Pam of Stitch New England and Stitching in the Land of Good Enough. And last week I went to the farm at East Hill in New Hampshire, which is a small New England retreat. So I have had some great stitching time with friends this year. The next 2 projects I started at East Hill Farm. The first one, this is a love it or hate it project. And I am stitching it with a lot of people because I have showed it to a lot of people and they love it. So this is The Birdman Cometh by Little Robin Designs. I love this. I think it is so funky and it is so amazing. So I started it at the farm with Lisa and Helen, and also stitching it with us is Michelle Cozy Egg and Memphis Sarah E. You are welcome to join us. So it is fantastic. I just love the colors. Like, I love everything about it. And it's interesting because this is a very polarizing piece. Either you love it or you hate it. I love it. The floss I am using is mostly a conversion from my own floss. I used what I had of the called for, which is Classic Colorworks, Simply Gentle Arts, and Weeks, and the rest I substituted with my Color and Cotton and Victorian Motto. Any of my substitutions, like if you want, shoot me a message or, you know, ask me in the comments and I can let you know what I have. A lot of what I'm stitching with is stuff I've had a long time. So you may not be able to, it may not be helpful to you, but I'm happy to share. I am stitching this on a 36 count fabric from Grace Notes called Passion, I believe. Look at that red. Oh, it's awesome. And my start, I had to look to find it. I told you I'm not usually like this, but this year I've done these little starts and I need to get back to them. This is my start up in the corner. And I need to grab that needle before it falls out. I am loving how it's looking. And yes, those colors are much better. Thank you, Mr. GablesStitcher. So good. This was fun for the bit that I did stitch on it. It's not a big sampler, and I look forward to coming back to it. The call for fabric is Weeks Aztec Red, and this is a little bit different, but I think it looks fantastic with the colors. Yeah, and it's a small sampler. It is 126 by 137. So like I said, I'm starting to see and really enjoy some of the smalls too. Next one was also a start at the farm. Another Little Robin Designs. This is called the Charming Cow Sampler. I started this with Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough, Joanna, and Ellen, my friend Ellen. Another small sampler. It's about the same size. Stitched with some of the called for, and once again, a lot of substituted floss. a lot of color and cotton and Victorian motto. These samplers use some of the same color, so I actually would just get the skein and split it between the two. And I am stitching this on the other half of the fabric from my summer in the country finish that I showed you. I had about half the fabric left. So it's that nice deep brown. And once again, a little bit of border. I need to get back to these. And I'll show you the palette on here. Really nice colors. This sampler is a bit deceiving. I looked at it and I thought it was a nice, simple, sweet sampler. I went to make myself a working copy. It's a sweet sampler. It's little. It has a lot of specialty stitches in it. I was talking to somebody at the farm who has stitched it already this year, and her words for it was intense. So I'll let you know how it goes. It's beautiful, but there are definitely a specialty stitches on it, and it's not, I don't think it's going to be quick, but it'll be pretty when it's done. Yeah, I was going to say something else about it. Now I forgot, so it couldn't have been that important. The last project I'm going to show you here, and to be honest, I'm not 100% sure I stitched on it or not. But I'm going to show you because there are so many new starts. I got to throw another whip in there. This is Peacock, Unicorn, and Badger by Scarlet Letter. It is a full coverage design, but it's blocky. It's not like a Heaven and Earth. Stitched with the call for DMC. This one is one of the few that have full skeins with it, because when I was stitching it, I mean, it's a big project and it's huge, so I don't want to worry too much about dye lots not matching. This is stitched on a 40 count mallow linen, 1 thread over 2 squares. And this is where I am. This is so much fun to stitch. I've been telling people, like, if you're thinking about starting this, just start it. Like, it is so much fun to stitch. Has a little bit of everything. Has some like places where you really got to count, and then it has a lot of fill-in too. So love it. I am pretty sure I stitched a little bit up here and a little bit down here. So pretty. As with everything else, I would like to get back to it. Just finding the time, right? Wish we just had unlimited time to stitch. All right, I have one more batch of a few more whips, and then I have in this last batch a couple of things that I plan on, believe it or not, plan on doing like 2 more starts this year for things that I need to get done for gifts, or I've borrowed the chart. So hold on, and one more little segment, and then we'll see where we end up. All right, I'm back with the last batch. Had some lunch. I am refueled and ready to go. I have a few more projects to show you, and then I'm going to touch base with the plans I have for the rest of 2023. I always like to do a wrap-up video and plans video for the next year in December. This year will be no different. I do plan on doing that. I would like to do another update video before that, but you know, we're 6 months between here, so let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's get this video filmed, edited, and up, and then we'll see where we go from there. But that's the thought. So the next batch of projects, I think these are mostly new starts. Next one is a rather unique sampler. It is from this book called Embroidery Motifs from Dutch Samplers. My stitch friend Margaret had a friend go on vacation to the Netherlands and bring her back the sampler. Not the sampler, the chart for the sampler. And a few of us who Zoomed together on Tuesday nights found the sampler in this book. And so Margaret and myself celebrated a milestone birthday this year. I'm not saying which one, but it's not 30. Let's put it that way. And we decided to start it together for our 30th. And my friend Christine also started it with us. So I am using the Call for Floss, which is DMC. Oh, and this book is, you know, it's out of print, but it's easily available on the secondhand market. So I was able to get a copy off of eBay for, it was like under 10 bucks delivered. So not hard to find. Using the Call for DMC, I'm just, as they're being called for, I am putting them in bobbins. And I am stitching it on a piece of Silk Weaver 40 count Newcastle linen called Quaker Cream. And I had actually started something on the other half of this, so I need to still rip it out. So we just flipped the fabric over and we started from there. And this is what I have so far. So pretty, so pretty. That bird was so much fun to stitch. One thread over one strand of floss over 2 linen threads. And the only thing I did change, so far I've changed the border, calls for a much bluer green, and I used a green that's called for. And the beak of the bird, the eye of the bird, the legs of the bird were called for 310. And I thought the black was too harsh on this palette. So I substituted in $37.99, which is like a nice charcoal gray. So there we go. Really pretty, really fun. Not for the faint of heart, it is big. As you can see, like the bird is there. It's pretty big. So that will be a long-term project, but I will enjoy it. And my friend Angela, who I started Byron with, made me a little portfolio. So I'm keeping it in there. Love it. Thank you, Angela. Next project, also a new start. I think in hindsight, we can look back and call 2023 the year of the big sampler that Amy barely started, because that's what this year has been thus far. And this is one of the biggest of the bigs. This is Dutch Beauty. This is by Perman of Copenhagen. It is a gorgeous sampler. A lot of people have stitched it. A lot of people have finished it. And a lot of people are currently stitching it. So, readily available chart. It's like 12 or 13 bucks. So, really pretty. Calls for DMC. This one, I am changing the colors. The colors are very light because it was likely charted from the front of the sampler. And I want the colors a little bit deeper. So what I am doing, this is my start. Don't get like all excited. That's it so far. Just a little bit of the border. This is 40 count Vintage Country Mocha. 1 strand of floss over 2 linen threads. What I am doing is using the called for DMC, and I am going a shade or 2 darker. So I am getting my DMC card, and wherever the number is, I am just looking down a shade or 2 darker and using that instead. So just because I wanted a little bit more bolder in color. And that's it. So that is, after almost an hour, that's it for the projects I have stitched on in the last 6 months. Like I said, a lot of new starts. I started the year with 45 whips, and I have 44 right now, plus the one I adopted. So don't tell Lynette, although Lynette, you're watching this. That being said, I started 2 of those big projects with Lynette, so the whole whip manager thing is, at this point, is a joke between us. So plans for the rest of the year, rest of 2023. We have about, 6 or 7 weeks left in the year. All of those samplers that I have a bit of border on, I am not going to get to all of them, but I would like to pick 1 or 2 to work on a little bit. My oldest project, the Constance Thayer sampler, Finish Her Before She Can Drink, I would like to get that bottom of it done. I have about a third of the house and a couple of trees. That is doable. I also would like, as much as it seems like I'm a really organized person, I am, but I lose things. So I actually have a couple of things, like I want to go through and organize my whips. Some of the projects, I get all excited when people want to start things together, and I almost never say no to a stitch along. But a lot of these I haven't organized very well. So I want to go through and organize them so I can just pick it up and start stitching. Whether it be getting all the rest of the threads together, making working copies of the chart. I always make a working copy because I lose things. And now I have a dog that eats things. So I need working copies. I have a few more things I need to make a working copy of. I would like to start one more Christmas thing, whether it be an ornament or a small. So I started looking through my Christmas charts. I haven't made any decision yet, but I have, the only Christmas project I have right now is that ornament. And I would like another one to stitch during the Christmas season. I also have a couple more projects I would like to start before the end of the year to have whips going into next year. One of them is this. I have pulled this out so many times on my channel. It says Ipswich stocking, Ipswich hosiery chart down here. This is a really old chart. This is from like 1982. And I would like to stitch it and give it to my parents. I would love to give it to my mother for her birthday, which is in February. It's November, so I really need to start it. It is small. It's 65 by 92 stitches, but it is a hand-drawn chart. So if you've ever stitched from a hand-drawn chart, you know the challenge with that. But I think once I get started, it'll be fine. So I would like to start and stitch that. And then the only other project I plan on starting, because I borrowed the chart and I really want to return it to my friend, is October 31st by Cottage Garden. Cottage Garden. I love this. A lot of people have been stitching it this fall. Loved it. I have a fantastic piece of fabric to stitch it on. Isn't that going to be awesome? So this is Carrot by Weeks Dye Works. Oh, I love it. It is 30 count. And because it's 30 count, I will use 2 strands of floss. And it calls for 2 fancies. It calls for Tin Bucket and Raven, which I think both are probably in the bird, in the Raven. And I pulled a Color and Cotton featherweight, and I have the Tin Bucket. And then I'll use the DMC. But I think it's going to look fantastic on the orange. So I have been wanting to start those 2 projects all year and have not. So that's my plan. And, oh, one other one. This is I mean, do these really count? They're small. This is a Blackbird. This was a class kit. I'm borrowing this one from a friend as well. And I need to pass it on to the next person who's borrowing it. Would like to do that sooner rather than later so it doesn't get stuck in my backlog. I remember how Helen said she would finish 2 ornaments for me. This might be it. So these little sea stockings. So that's 3. And yes, that will bring me above 45, which is where I started the year with. It's always next year. It is okay. So that is it. If you have stuck with me for this long, thank you so much. If you have come back after 6 months to watch me again, thank you. I really enjoyed spending time with you and I really appreciate it. And if you've never seen me before, I don't usually wait 6 months between videos, but thank you for watching. And I really hope you found something that you enjoyed. I will put as many links as I can in the description box, and you can always message me or ask me a question in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it. So thank you so much once again. Have a wonderful day and happy stitching, everybody. Bye.